Hey guys! Today I want to talk with you about a fun and simple romance novel called It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This novel was released in 2021 and it's the first book in the Bellinger Sisters duology. The second book in the duology, called Hook, Line, and Sinker, was published in March of 2022, but you really don't need to read the second one to get the full story of the It Happened One Summer. As per usual, we will start this review with a short synopsis, then proceed to the non-spoiler review and wrap everything up with the spoilers. If you have not read It Happened One Summer yet, then do not worry, I will make sure to let you know when the spoilers begin. It Happened One Summer is a story of Piper and Brandon. Piper is a spoiled and wealthy socialite who spends way too much time caring about her online presence, spending money, and getting herself into trouble. After Piper takes one of her over-the-top popularity stunts too far, her stepfather decides to temporarily cut her off and teach her a lesson in self-sufficiency. He sends her away to a small fishing village to learn more about her biological father's roots. Brandon, on the other hand, is the definition of discipline. As a captain in charge of a crew that spends their time crab fishing, he has to be. Yet, despite his better judgment, Brandon can't seem to be able to get a certain fun-loving newcomer out of his head. It seems that Piper's move to Westport will not only push her to learn independence, but it might also teach Brandon that life is supposed to be enjoyed. For as long as I can remember, crime thrillers and horror novels have been my to-go genres. That being said, almost 2 years ago I gave Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo a try, and I remembered my childhood love for fantasy. A few months after, I picked up It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, and with it my never-ending binge of romance novels started as well. The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren, Bad Apple by Ella Kennedy, Heartbones by Colleen Hoover, The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa, Faking with Benefits by Lily Gold, Make It Sweet by Kristen Callahan, Put Me in Detention by Megan Quinn. You name it, I have read it, or I'm about to read it. But to be honest, while I do certainly enjoy reading the romance novels, the calm, fluffy feeling reading them gives me, I rarely actually want to talk about them in my reviews. As more often than not, even if I enjoy a romance novel, I don't really have much to say about it. And yet, almost as soon as I hit the mid-mark of It Happened One Summer, I knew that I will be making a video about it. And it's not because the novel itself is super groundbreaking, but because it made me laugh. A lot. As well as the storyline somehow weirdly enough hit close to home. Now, all that being said, the first couple of chapters of this book are pain in the ass to go through. In the beginning of the story, Piper is incredibly annoying as a character. So annoying that I was actually considering putting this book on hold and reading something else before I go back to it. The premise of the book promised me a rich, spoiled girl with no purpose in life, and I thought I can manage that, but in those first chapters, Piper is presented to us in a most negative light possible. She's not just self-centered, but also incredibly airheaded. She was presented to us as someone who is known for creating this image that makes people love her, but at the same time, Piper felt socially inept to actually read the room. And that combination just threw me off. But then as the story progressed, Piper's other qualities took over. The more I read about her, the more she won me over with this energy she seemed to possess, with this optimistic attitude. Quickly enough, I started to see Piper as someone who's actually humble in the situations where it matters. She cares for others and she's quick to help to those in need. She's loyal, self-assured, and open-minded. And yes, at times she tries a little too hard to feel liked, but who doesn't want to be liked? And as for Brandon, this man grew on me much quicker than anticipated. I'm usually not the biggest fan of the grumpy man who pretends to be all tough, but is a teddy bear inside trope. But for Brandon, this character stereotype fits so well. It felt very natural. And while being strict and disciplined and set in his ways, he's also incredibly smart, loving, and devoted. Piper and Brandon work very well as a couple. Their dynamic, despite being an actual romance novel trope, aka Sunshine and Grumpy, still felt very authentic. And the plot, while being predictable enough, kept me very much entertained until the very last page. So if you are a fan of fun and heartfelt romance novels, which are filled with lovely people whom you can't help but want to root for, and if you want to read a beautiful and fairly spicy love story in which the man falls first, then It Happened One Summer is the book for you. On this note, let's move to the spoiler review. So if you haven't read It Happened One Summer yet, and now it's a great time for you to click off this video. Now I just have to start the spoiler review by saying that this book contained a fair amount of cringeworthy, secondhand embarrassment-filled moments. Brandon overhearing Piper struggles trying to Google the simplest recipes to try, the burning pan incident, or loud proclamation in crowded bar that Brandon is the best sex Piper ever had. And of course, the memorial scene, especially the memorial scene. Reading about Piper showing up at Brandon's dead wife's memorial with a tray full of shots pushed me over my limit. I could not handle the secondhand embarrassment anymore. I had to put down the book and go to do dishes instead. Of course, these scenes made a lot of sense in these specific situations, and Piper can't really be blamed for never learning how to cook or being invited to a memorial and not being informed that this is actually a memorial and not your regular party. And yet Piper always seemed to somehow end up in these less than flattering situations. The only thing that I loved about them, though, was just how effortlessly Brandon managed to make them all somehow endearing. I just can't stress it enough. The moment Brandon ran out of the memorial in order to sit down with Piper and make sure that she's feeling alright after everything that just occurred made me fall in love with the guy. Overall, the way Brandon realized that his initial judgment of Piper was too rash, and how it wasn't difficult for him to admit to being the asshole and apologizing to Piper for his behavior, as well as the way he tried to make sure that Piper is feeling safe and comfortable by doing the little things such as making sure that she ate or installing the lock on their door. These instances were so sweet. Instead of coming across as a grumpy, no emotions allowed type of guy, he felt attentive and considerate. He felt like a man who will be there for you when you need him. And his crush on Piper was borderline adorable. Such a tough, taking no shit from anyone in his crew guy, getting flustered by Piper and secretly stalking her Instagram account. Well, at least trying to do it secretly. In addition to that, I have to point out one thing that I noticed while reading It Happened One Summer, and that was just how unapologetically feminine Piper is. Weirdly enough, while reading this novel, I realized just how rarely the female protagonists of romance novels are just so loudly confident in what they like. I'm used to female heroines who are either very feminine but soft, or the ones who look like a knockout and behave like one of the boys, taking down beer or whiskey and emphasizing on just how much they prefer burgers over salad. And while there's nothing wrong with these type of women either, I found it very refreshing as well as very enjoyable to read about a woman who actually wants to get a glass of bubbly with her dinner, who wants to experiment with makeovers, and who gets excited about going shopping. A woman who is unapologetically herself, and a man that feels like he honestly wants to try to give her the things she likes. Another thing that I loved about this book is that both Piper and Brandon actually behave like two grown-ups throughout most of it. More often than not, they try to talk about their concerns out in the open, reassuring one another. And that's why the final conflict of this book felt realistic and well-deserved as well. Of course, it's a romance novel, so everything had to be over-the-top dramatic, with Brandon leaving the house after the fight and Piper not making to the pier on time in order to let him know that she is all in, and consequently leaving to LA. But when you boil down this conflict to its core, you see that both of their issues with the current relationship status stem from very understandable fears. Brandon feels afraid because he can sense that Piper doesn't feel secure with her decision. He's afraid to start a life with her just to lose her. At the same time, he is afraid that she just won't be happy once she sacrifices the things she had in order to stay with him. And Piper is scared of leaving the only life she knew behind and starting over. She's afraid that it is only Brandon that is keeping her in Westport, that she will not find herself here or manage to find her place in this community. As I have mentioned in my non-spoiler review, this novel at times hit close to home for me. And while I'm not an Instagram famous socialite with a super wealthy family, at one point in my life I also made a decision to leave the life I knew, to leave my family and my home country behind and move elsewhere. I made a decision to create a life of my own in a country which culture I did not fully understand, which language I did not know, and a big part of that decision was the wish to stay with the man that I fell in love with. Now, I'm not going to go into my personal life too much, as we all came here to talk about Piper and Brandon, but me being able to relate to this book on a personal level also made me want to make this review. I truly enjoyed just how down to earth, how realistic, and how serious these reasons pushing Piper and Brandon apart were. Just how often do you get these novels where one partner is completely ready to drop everything, and I mean everything, their family, friends, home, work, and move to a completely different location just for a chance to create a relationship with someone. And just how rarely these novels actually explore the constant anxiety that comes with making this decision. In my eyes, It Happened One Summer portrayed so very well just how you can be absolutely crazy about someone and still feel insecure about your choice of staying with them. In a weird way, this fun and simple romance novel made me and my anxieties feel seen and understood. And that was just the cherry on the top of this already beautiful and entertaining novel. This book is a perfect choice for when you want to sit in the sun, relax, and bring a little bit of joy in your day. But that's just my opinion. What about yours?